Why is my not?
I'm taller than you. You'll be all right.
And we're live, Giants Blitz. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you may be in the World Wide Web. Welcome to Giants Blitz, our show, but all things football right here at ChilliwackGiants.com. We're here live from Townsend Field and a very special episode live from the Peewee Combine, kicking off the 2017 Chilliwack Giants football season. I'm joined right now by the incomparable Mr. Mike Kelly, who has a very interesting combine experience at the professional level in his own right. Before we get into that, I just want to get at generalities. Mike, of course, was a player, a head coach, and an assistant coach, offensive coordinator for many years with Chilliwack Minor Football. And you've been involved in a lot of these combines and how to get them set up. So give the uninitiated an idea. What exactly goes on at these things with evaluating the kids?
Sure, Tim. Well, thank you for having me, first of all. And yeah, we have a beautiful day here. I can see in behind us we have about 60 or 70 little ones being put through the paces by various coaches. And this is really an annual thing, happens in every association, every age level. And it's for parents or kids that haven't gone through it before, it can be a little uncertain of what you're supposed to do. Really what coaches are trying to do is get an understanding of each individual child and where they are at their age level and experience with the game of football. So they'll be asked to do all sorts of different exercises, athletic demonstrations, and they're being evaluated and scored in an effort to sort of essentially assess where the child is at. Right. That gives the coaches the ability then to categorize each child, and there may be some sort of ranking numerical system, 1 through 5, 1's being very skilled and very athletic, and 5's being the lower and new to the sport, perhaps. Perhaps it could be a fitness component of it. They're not quite in top condition yet, so it just is a tool for coaches to rank all the children. And then when it comes to making up teams, what we do in our association is try and blend that roster of kids into equal teams. So each team may have the same number of 1s, same number of 2s, 3s, 4s, right, and 5s. And so that's essentially what's going on behind us, and that's essentially what's happening at combines all across the Lower Mainland and our country at this time of year right now.
Right, and you can't get too caught up in rankings because there's a slighter, quicker kid is going to rank really high in, say, wide receiver category, right, but it's going to go very, very low in, say, offensive lineman, because they just don't have the size. That's not their body type, right?
Well, that's the great thing about football, really, is there is a position for every type of child. If you're a really strong big kid, and any parent or coach would see immediately upon just looking at that child, whoa, they're big. Yeah. What your mind starts to go, well, gee, they might be a lineman type or maybe a linebacker, running back type, and you put them through some paces and just see if they also can move, or really how strong are they, how fast are they, and then your brain sort of categorizes them in one spot. You might see a smaller child and go, oh wow, how can those two be on the same field at the same? How are they both, whatever age, 12 years old? That one's so small and that one's so big. And then you watch the small one, and they're just a little water bug. They're super fast, and there's no way the big guy could ever catch the little guy.
That's right.
But if they ever came together, you go, uh-oh, I don't even want to see that, because the big guy might squash the little water bug. So
that's why you have O lines and D lines.
That's right. That's
and
why
equipment, helmets. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's why they're all there's a position for everybody. The bigger players are put on lines and compete against each other, and the smaller ones are on the outside of that and competing against other similar body types all at once. That's what makes football so inclusive to kids, because there's a spot for any child on the team. So anyway, you're absolutely right. That's what's going on behind us, and it's a lot of fun.
Okay, now I want to get into your experience. You played with midget teams back in the late the 90s, I believe.
That's
with
right.
Chilliwack Minor Football.
Yep.
You went to the Abbotsford Air Force.
That's right.
And after 2 years in Abbotsford, you were invited to the CFL Combine.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, at the CFL level, it's going to be much more intense and much more involved than we see here.
Yeah.
What was that experience like? Take us through it.
Well, first of all, yeah, I think the way to couch that experience was really to say I was a young man attending junior program in Abbotsford, and very much still with dreams and aspirations of going to school first. My goal while playing junior was to try and land a university scholarship, and that's what I was working towards. I was making sure my schooling was in line. My grades were good. I was working out. I was having success at the junior level, and I think maybe that's what garnered some national attention. I had been fortunate to be All-Canadian 2 years in a row at the junior level, which is a great accomplishment, but I was absolutely...
I'd say that's a pretty good accomplishment.
Yes, but I was still absolutely floored when one day in the mail slot, stack of mail comes in, and all of a sudden there's a CFL emblazoned logo kind of letter with my name on it.
They sent you a letter. They didn't call your coach and have the coach tell you? They sent you a letter?
No,
it showed up in the mail unannounced? You had no idea?
I had heard that there was it was an initiative that the CFL was doing to sort of, I think they selected 5 junior players across Canada.
Wow, and you were one of them.
I was one of them.
Wow.
When I showed up, there was 2 players from the Ontario League. There was another player from the BC Conference, and I think 1 player from the Prairie Conference.
Oh, okay.
And we were the 5 junior players selected to attend the CFL Combine. That year it happened to be in Winnipeg. It was 1999, and
party like it's 1999 at the Combine. Okay,
it was no party, my friend, which is why I'm happy to talk about the experience.
Yeah.
What I can't say for myself is I was absolutely floored at the invitation, and I still recognize that the CFL, your draft year, your true draft year, is at the time it was the age of 24. Or your 4th year of university, whichever comes first.
So that was the criteria.
That was the criteria. Well,
okay.
That is how any person is eligible at age 24
right.
or your 4th year of university.
So if you're 20 years old and you're tearing up the CIS, you can't get drafted.
Not right. You could be invited as a free agent, as a tryout in that sense. But your actual draft year, the criteria was that. So I was, I think, 21 at the time, and still with, as I mentioned, I was thinking my path might be university, and then after a couple of years have this opportunity. So I was totally blown away, very happy to have this experience. Also didn't quite appreciate the impact of it, and my sort of welcome to the CFL moment was when I walked in Winnipeg. I got my ticket, got picked up by the director of player personnel from the Bombers personally at the airport, driven to the hotel.
That's pretty swanky.
Showered, changed, and the next morning we're down at the facility, and that's where my naivety kicked in and to just exactly what we were into. Now, one thing I will say is we know as the public so much more about the CFL drafts now, and they're televised, and I think a lot of athletes start training a year, at least 2 years in advance, in advance of expecting to be going to the draft. They know the drills. They're highly trained for and specialized drills. And I will say again, I was not 100% prepared as I could have been for that.
When you say prepared, were you talking mentally, physically, or both?
Both.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as a 21-year-old, I was a couple years in development and maturity behind some of the other people. So the first shock to my system was looking around and just getting a little bit starstruck by the other athletes that were there, and trying to hold my own, hold my power, but also realizing that there were so many little subtleties that told me that I was in the deep end of the pool and I wasn't quite ready to speak with them. So I think we've lost
some audio.
Oh, there we go.
We're back. That's good. We're good. We're good. Sorry about that.
So one small example, just to maybe better illustrate the story. The simplest of warm-ups for quarterbacks and receivers are to stand, say, 10 or 15 yards apart and just throw a ball back and forth.
Right.
Just light and easy, just as a very nice way to get warmed up, to get mentally focused for the drills and tests that are going to come down the road. So I stood in a line with some other receivers and quarterbacks across from me, and I was expecting our sort of traditional throw and catch.
Right.
Well, the quarterbacks were just phenomenal.
Right.
And they were throwing the ball with such velocity that it took all my concentration and strength to have my hands out just to grab the ball. You can see my broken pinkies as evidence for how hard they were throwing the ball. And it was just so beyond any kind of little warm-up. And so all I could do to hang with them and just catch the ball because they were rifling at me. And then I looked to my left and to my right, and the receivers that were with me weren't just casually catching the ball or concentrating like that. They were actually catching it like fancy backhand this and showing off. And then I looked around, and the draft hadn't even begun. The scouting hadn't begun, but the scouts were all watching, and like they were watching everything, and they were actually watching, and those other receivers were aware enough to realize that even an off to the side little warm up catch and throw was being evaluated. So they were taking that opportunity to show some of their next level skills.
Wow.
Where I was just little subtleties like that happened for the course of the 2 days that I was there. Day one was more of just a physical body assessment. They take your height, weight, they strip you down. Not totally, but they strip you down. They look at your body type. They project ahead. How you may physically grow. Even at that level, they're still trying to project how much your body structure and how much more weight and muscle they can pack onto you.
Right.
And it was very, very weird. You're walking along with a number, and you're referenced by only your number. It was interesting.
Bit of a factory?
Yeah, a little bit of a factory.
Now, I've heard for the NFL Combine, the odd book I've read, say you're having a pre-existing knee injury, and the doctors will sit down from every single team and just poke and prod and make you run through the point that you have to get home and just ice the knee because it's. Did you have anything like that? Do you have any existing injury? Like you mentioned, your broken pinky. Are they jamming your pinky and poking at it, or
everybody got a full physical at that point in my career? I had been lucky, and I hadn't been hurt too much, so I was okay. But I definitely saw evidence of the individuals with the knee and the lower back injuries and the hips that were getting absolutely worked over, and agony might be a word to describe some of the athletes.
Now, do you recall any names from that combine making the CFL?
Yeah. Davis Sanchez was one of the cornerbacks. He was coming out of a AAA local high school program, but then he had gone down south to university, and he was one of those starstruck sort of people that I noticed that, oh my goodness, I'm running drills against Davis Sanchez, who went on to play a couple years for the Chargers and then the Montreal Alouettes, and is now in broadcasting, actually doing shows similar to this.
There you go. We got a way bigger audience than he does. But anyway,
the one person that I actually looked up to as a young student athlete was Jason Claremont out of the Regina Rams program, and he was in the draft year ahead of me. And I watched how he held himself and how he conducted himself. He ended up being drafted by the BC Lions, had a good career with the Lions, and then ended his career in Saskatchewan. But I looked to him sort of to be my, somebody that I modeled my behavior after. He was, he was a good slot back out of Regina.
Yeah, he did well. So now, obviously, you went to the combine. You didn't get drafted, and that's life. You went to University of Manitoba.
Well, I just need to clarify that point. I wasn't draft eligible.
That's right.
I was invited with the 5 other junior football players to the draft.
Right.
And I think actually that was probably one of the reasons why I was a little bit naive when I spoke to. I wasn't aware of the impactful moment that it was, because I wasn't in that headspace yet. That was a little, I don't want to say immature. I wasn't quite 24. Right. Having that draft be the pinnacle of everything that I had been working for yet. It was still my goal. Like, yes, I wanted to be there, but I wasn't quite there yet. All those other players with me were totally aware that this was their moment. They were on. They had been working and training for those drills. They were ready for everything. And I was sort of this, oh, hey, cool, I got invited to the draft. Okay, yeah, I'm not doing anything that weekend. I'll go. It was that. It wasn't quite like that. But I was flattered, and I was impressed, and I was like, okay, well, I'll do a little bit of extra working out, and I'll try a little harder at that.
Right.
But when I showed up, it was like, okay, I get it. This is This is way full on, and I'm not quite ready, so I better just try my best and realize that that this isn't my moment, but I see now where I need to be. So it was in Winnipeg. The University of Manitoba coaches were there observing. It was in their house. They had all the sort of, if you're a football coach and you're there sort of thing. And here we were as 5 draft ineligible junior invites there. So they spoke to all of us, and 2 of us actually ended up going to that school. So
there you go. That's the segue. But I'm curious about, because even though they offer you a scholarship and you show up to training camp at the U of M, you're not guaranteed a spot on a roster, because they could have 50 kids and 10 spots for wide receivers or whatever.
So 75 and 20.
20, exactly. So how did the CFL Combine experience prepare you physically, mentally for that following year coming into training camp at U of M?
You know what? That's a great question, first of all. And I think what it did is it really opened eyes to what professional football is. I think we all aspire to it.
Right.
But until you're there, until you see it, until you're alongside it, you don't truly understand what it is. Yeah. And so I think what it did for myself was it showed you the end goal.
Yeah.
And I wasn't quite there yet. I was getting close, but it really showed what was left. And the most difficult part of that journey was that last little bit to go. Everything gets a little more challenging along the way. And I was getting close to the end, and that last bit was going to be the hardest bit. As much as that prepared me for that, my first year at university was still a real challenge.
I'm sure.
It was challenging at a completely different level than what professional football would be.
Right.
University is its own animal.
It certainly is.
And it took a while to adjust to it.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Mike Kelly. I very much appreciate your time.
No worries, Tim.
One big smile for the camera. There we are. Okay, I'm going to grab your headset. Mike Kelly, coach, man extraordinaire, man of such worldly experience in the world of football for Chilliwack Minor football. Now we're going to segue in to one of the coaches coming up for our upcoming Peewee program. Mr. Sean Dallas, sir, if you can just put that on gingerly above your San Francisco Giants hat, because, why not support a winning team? So we'll just focus on the Giants part here. Sean, welcome, sir, to Giants Blitz.
Thank you very
much. Your first time being here.
Okay?
That mic should be just fine. We can always pot it up. That's not a worry. Now, you're ready for the draft today. This is your chance as a coach to assess talent and evaluate talent. My first question, how are things looking out there in the Combine?
Oh, my God. The amount of talent that we have out on this field, the size, the talent, the attention to detail from these kids is it's pretty exciting.
Now, is anyone really standing out for you right off the bat? I mean, just so we're clear, Sean is a longtime coach with minor football, and he knows a lot of these kids quite well, so there's going to be your favorites that you want to lock up. Is there anybody out there that's really standing out for you?
Well, my favorites that I want to lock up are all probably going to be on the other team.
Oh.
Yeah, well, that's our goal today, is to make sure we put 2 really even teams out on the field.
Right.
Like I was telling the parents, our goal is to finish 1 and 2 this year.
Yep.
Because of the amount of talent we have on this field. Brandon and I are going to work hard to make sure that our draft is very even, and we're looking forward to trying to get some practices together.
Nice. Now, in terms of surprises, kids you've never seen before who are suddenly coming to the Combine tonight, you're like, wow. Any names out there you can think of?
Well, you know what? For my part of the organizing of this, I haven't had an opportunity. I've been more on top, watching and letting my coaches find out who the talent is for their type of. Right now, we're doing measurables.
Sure.
So we're checking their height, how their vertical jump is. We're checking their 10-yard sprint, their 20-yard sprint.
Nice.
We are checking their strength. We're using push-ups as our measuring tool with time. We're also doing a 5-10-5. So what we're trying to do is trying to get a measurable as to what type of an athlete we have.
Right.
And once we figure out what the athletes are, our second segment here is that we're going into is field drills. So we're going to do some O-line drills. We're going to do some D-line drills.
Gotcha.
We're going to do some linebacker stuff. We're going to watch the kids. We're going to see how their feet react. We're going to see how they react with the coaches. And that's where I'm going to be able to have a better idea of, wow, that kid looks, you know what I mean? Because
perfect.
When he's doing these measurables, it's kind of I'm like, yeah, okay, he jumped 14 inches, and right now I want to see him jump 14 inches and catch a ball.
Right, exactly. And it's, so Peewee is ages 10 and 11, so they're still pretty young kids.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so you can't get too intense. I mean, for a little kid.
What? No, we don't want to be too intense, but we want to give these kids an opportunity to understand what the coaches at the next level are going to be asking them. So the next time they go to a combine and they have these type of measurables, they'll be more versed in doing the actual drills, so they can tweak up their presentation when they get to the field.
Okay, now in terms of your own coaching style and your goals for this season, I mean, every coach's goal obviously is to win more games than losses. I mean, that's kind of a no-brainer, but in community football, it's about, building teamwork and all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
So your goal for the season coming up, if you could sort of sum it up, what would you say?
Well, when we're looking at the raw talent and the kids that are maybe 10 play players, we like to make those 15 play players minimum.
Sure.
You know what
right.
I mean? We try to get the most out of each and every athlete we have on the field. I've had some discussions with my offensive coordinator about passing and trying to encourage the passing game.
Nice.
We've got some quarterbacks here that can throw the ball. How we can incorporate into that in our game, I would like to chisel that out on the field. And,
okay.
Right now I think we're sitting at a 2/3, 1/3. And I'm pushing my OC for a little bit more.
Okay, and now as far as your OC is concerned, who's your OC going to be this season?
Ian Parks.
Ian Parks, and then your defensive coordinator is going to be?
Mr. Hewitt.
Garth Hewitt.
Garth Hewitt.
Yeah, okay. Oh, perfect. That sounds like an excellent coaching staff.
Yes.
Well, good luck in the season. I look
very much.
forward to being here to cover some of the games on ChilliwackGiants.com, and I think it's going to be really exciting, so I'm really happy for you. Thank you so much, Sean. I'll grab that from you. Sean Dallas, ladies and gentlemen, a very good athlete and an excellent football man in his own right. And now we're going to be joined by Mr. Brandon Castleman, as I wave him over, who is our other coach. Brandon, you put that sucker right on there. Step a little closer to me. Don't be shy. You're a star in your own right. So, Mr. Castleman, you are the other. I mean, there's two coaches. You're the other coach for Peewee Red. How are things looking out for you in terms of talent right now?
Talent right now, we've caught up quite a bit, so I'm pretty happy with talent. I'm really wanting two fair teams here. I want to be first and second in the division. I think that, like you said, winning is important, but I want to develop these kids that aren't quite there to get them ready for the next year and the next coaches.
Okay.
I think that it's going to be a good year. Right now, it's looking real good. So.
Okay. Now, any players in particular standing out for you on the field right now?
I like Talon Fisher. He's one of the kids that I want to give a chance. I got to coach him at the All-Star game there for last year's Peewee, and he's a really good kid. And Christian Beck's another one that I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah, Christian Beck, of course, his brother. The two Becks. I want to call them Jeff Beck. They're a longtime football family. Their dad, of course, coaches, and wonderful talent, great family, nice people. So that's good. Now, in terms of rounding out your team. What are you looking for, I mean, in terms of just getting a nice, well-rounded team that can compete?
I want kids who want to be there. I want kids to know that it's a privilege to play football, and especially for this organization. It's something I enjoyed growing up, and I want them all to be there for the same reason. I want them to like football and keep them going forward with football. I don't want to see a fall-off where you have one team. I'd like to have 2-3 teams at the older levels as well.
Right.
So it's my job to kind of push those kids, get them there, and develop their skills and make them have fun out there.
Any surprises, raw talent, kids you've never seen before that are showing up today that are blowing your mind?
There's a lot of big kids who've shown up today. I think we're going to have two teams with some real big lines. I know that's what I like to focus on when you're picking a team, is get a big solid line where you can get your quarterback some space and your running back some room. But there's a lot of new kids to football. I'm really interested to see how they handle the balls here in the next half, and should be interesting.
Okay, now new kids to football are great because obviously we want our association to grow and we're attracting new players. Bit of a challenge on the coaching side. How are you going to attack things with, you get that raw talent, that wonderful raw talent, but you need to shape them and mold them. So, I mean, how's your coaching staff rounding out to shape and mold those guys?
I've got a pretty large coaching staff, and they're all chose for a certain aspect of that. Like, we're going to develop a lot of kids that I got a very good offensive coordinator in Steve Wolf.
Okay.
He comes from the States and he knows football. He's just got to adapt to our style of play. His kid's a great kid, good leader out there. I had the opportunity to coach him in flag, and we did pretty well.
Nice.
All the other guys we have Tim Robertshaw is a lineman coach this year, and he's going to have the task of getting some of these big new kids.
That's a bonus, having a lineman coach. That's a big bonus in football.
Oh, absolutely. We have a defensive coordinator, Steve Pestrachuk, or I can't quite say his last name.
Steve P. We'll call him P.
Yeah, he's a great defensive coordinator, and I think that he's going to keep the kids aggressive and hungry for the ball, and I think it's going to be a really good year.
Excellent. Thank you very much. That's great. Brandon Castleman and Sean Dallas are two Peewee coaches for Chilliwack Minor football for the upcoming 2017 season. Thanks, bro. Okay, well, thank you so much for tuning in to Giants Blitz and this beautiful Saturday morning right here at Townsend Park for the Peewee Combine. Coming up next week, we're going to have 2 pre-recorded shows because apparently the crew has better things to do than worry about football. I don't know what that could be. This coming Friday, we're going back to our normal Friday slot at 5 o'clock, or 6 o'clock, pardon me. That's going to be great player, bad attitude, and how coaches cope with that sort of thing. The following week, we have another pre-recorded show, which is going to be how to deal with a problem parent. And it's an issue that impacts sports across the board. It's not unique to football or even unique to the Giants for that matter. Thank you very much for tuning in. ChilliwackGiants.com, Giants Blitz. I'm your host, Tim Amy, live from Townsend Park.